Yo, what up, guys? It's Renan, and I'm going to talk about dueling. And you might be asking yourself, who the hell cares about dueling or 1v1? I do, okay? I care. I'm a rogue player, and I want to kill people in world PvP, okay? And if I'm not winning, I'm mad. And while that's entirely true, I do think, though, to be fair, that other classes should have some counterplay, okay? And first up, we're going to talk about the 3 different categories of dueling classes in Dragonflight. But before we get to that, you might notice that there are a bunch of dead bodies on the ground, right? And you might be asking, how did that happen? Why are there so many dead people out here on the beta? Well, as you can see right there was a dead guy. Every time you duel and you lose, you die, right? And I think the reason for that is that they're preparing everybody to be in the habit of dying whenever you fight Warlock, Shadow Priest, or Shaman, because they're kind of busted on the beta right now, and I'll talk about that later. But if you ever want to turn on war mode, you're going to be your POV if you're not those 3 classes. Okay, but let's get back to the trifecta of PvP classes in a dueling scenario. We have rock, we got paper, and we got scissors. But in the paper category, we have rogue and mage. They're kind of the same thing. They're all about doing small bursts of damage and then trying to get away, maybe wait for some cooldowns if they can. More so even for rogue. And the way I see it is, if you're a rogue, you're going to do massive damage with your cooldowns in a stun window, and then you run away. You're like paper. You slice and you're really annoying, but then, you know, if the people get to you, you're just going to freaking get torn in half really quick. So if you're a rogue, expect to have a hit and run playstyle, especially in arena, unless you're doing 3s where you have a healer. But even then, with how high damage is, you're basically going to have to adopt a hit and run playstyle. Otherwise, you're just going to get annihilated. And that means that there are a lot of classes which just straight up cannot die to rogue. Things like, again, Warlock, Shadow Priest, and Shaman are going to not die in your cooldowns if they trinket while your cooldowns. And then you have very little sustained damage in order to kill them. So then you're going to try to vanish to get away, get a full stun combo on them. But what do you know? You just don't do any damage without your 3-minute or 1.5-minute cooldowns. You can't kill them. They're going to come out of the stealth or come out of the stun with like 30% HP, full heal instantly. And then you're basically never going to get anywhere. You're just going to die when you run out of vanish charges. And so for rogue, you're either going to kill people in a stun without any counterplay, or you're gonna die without any counterplay, and that's just kind of where we're at with rogue. Unfortunately, it's a not a very dynamic play style. You either kill them or you don't, and that's pretty much the same for mage. I think mages are kind of in a rough spot in dueling. They just kind of flop over. They're not as tanky, and their damage is kind of iffy. They don't have as much burst potential, like instant burst potential, like other classes do. So their damage is very telegraphed, and you can get away from it. You can pop a trinket or something to wall. There's not much that a mage can do to kill you in a duel, so I don't think they're that good. In fact, I don't see very many mages at all, and the ones that I do fight are just really easy to kill. Okay, now let's talk about the scissor category, which you would think would be a lot of these caster type characters, and then the rock category would have a lot of the melee, right, wearing plate and stuff. No, that's not true in dueling. The scissor category are the guys that can hit really hard, but then aren't very effective at, you know, not dying. So you have things like warrior, ret paladin, demon hunter, and unholy DK. Although I might want to put DH or Demon Hunter in the rock category because of how many freaking ways they have to heal themselves. But for the most part, oh, and I want to put Windwalker Monk in this category as well. And the reason for that is these guys can cut you up, man. If you're out in the open and they can pop every cooldown on you and you can't get away, you're gonna get fried. Windwalker Monk can one-shot you, Demon Hunter can one-shot you, while Unholy DK can't one-shot you. They have so much sustained burst damage on you with all their cooldowns that you better be freaking running or trying to survive, because you're gonna be in panic mode, and a lot of casters are gonna struggle into DK. Warrior does really good damage, but it's really telegraphed, and they have like no self-healing, so warriors in duels are usually just gonna flop. So if I were to rate the dueling specs right now for the scissor category, I'd put Demon Hunter at the very top, like the S tier of the scissor category, and Holy DK I'd put in A tier. B tier I would put Windwalker Monk and Paladin, and then in C tier I'd put Warrior, because warriors kind of just, they either kill you or they don't, and a lot of time they're just gonna die because they don't have very many ways to heal. Okay, now let's talk about the rock category.
You know what are you playing, peekaboo? You can't see me. I can see you. Can you see me?
And this is kind of counterintuitive, and it's the clothies, right? We have things like Warlock, Shadow Priest, we have Shaman, funnily enough. Druid, you can also put in here when they're in bear form. A lot of these classes, and I don't want to forget the new class, Evoker. They can be very deadly, but they're very squishy, and I would put the Evoker in the Scissor category. And Evokers, the main problem with them is that they don't have a lot of ways to survive, so if you can lock them down, they just flop. But if you're a class that doesn't have very much sustained crowd control, then the Evoker is just basically going to get away from you, heal up, and then they can do some formidable damage. Now in duels, I'd probably say that they're in the B tier, maybe A tier, maybe, depending on who they're fighting, but they're very squishy, but they do have ways to heal, but it's very telegraphed. Okay, back to the rock category. All right, we're going to talk about these clothies and then Shaman as well. The rock category is where the big boys are headed, where the big boys are at. We got Shamans who can instantly full heal and can one-shot you. You got Warlocks who have like 4. You have to do. I dueled one and I managed to beat one who wasn't. I don't know if he was very good or not. You had to do 2 million damage to kill a Warlock, right? And for reference, I only have 240,000 HP, so I basically had to kill him 9 times or so, over and over and over and over and over, while trying not to die as a rogue. The best method I found is just to ape them, pop every cooldown, cloak aggressively, vanish aggressively, just give them no room to get away. Because if you don't, you're not going to die. But a good Warlock pretty much is unkillable, at least for a rogue. The only ones that can beat them are in the Scissor category, where they have sustained damage and a bit of healing to keep them up. And then we also have Shadow Priest, who, when they fear and stun you, if they pop their cooldowns with mind games, you're just gonna die immediately. That's where, being a rogue, I can banish and get away, but it doesn't matter. They can tank all my damage with Disperse during a stun, so if they see me pop everything, they basically don't die, and then when they come out of Disperse, I'm dead, for the most part. And I think from what I've seen, a lot of duels here, and I'm going to go back to my POV in the game. As you can see, a Warlock here dueling a Druid in the background. They basically just have constant shielding. They Hellstone for 100% of their HP, and the Druid's down. That is the rock category for you right there. They just never die, and they just are freaking destroying you the entire time. And the rock category is unfortunately where the best are at. They do damage and they're just unkillable. And that pretty much sums up the dueling aspect of Dragonflight as we know it in the current meta. And I am afraid, because of how much they're focusing on the PvE aspect of the game, that a lot of these off-healing shields, things like that aren't really going to be apparent in PvE are going to go unchecked into PvP, and you're going to see a lot of things in Dragonflight which are going to be really annoying, similar to like season 1 Ret Paladin, where Word of Glory was instantly topping people off and they were one-shotting. That's going to happen again in Dragonflight, but this time less so with Ret Paladin, who are kind of not that strong at the moment actually, but more so for Shaman, Druid, and then you have Shadow Priest and Warlock, who are just going to be unkillable and burst you in 1 second, especially Shadow Priest when they mind games you. So I really do hope that they balance the off healing and the shielding in arena. That way you're not going to have really annoying games where you get somebody to 1 HP and then they just instantly full heal and you have to wait for dampening. I feel like that's kind of where we're headed, unfortunately, unless the one-shotting somehow overcomes the amount of off-heal and shielding. But again, is that really going to be too much fun in arena to just be one-shotting or never dying? I don't think so. But anyways, guys, that is going to be my video for Dragonflight in terms of dueling. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching.